Hello, everyone. We're so happy you could join us today. I'm Michelle Melville-Cashon. I am the Community Outreach Coordinator for Sexual Health Alliance. And today we are joined by Jennifer Rahner. Hello, Jennifer.
Hi, how are you?
Good. All right. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Certainly. Well, in addition to being Michelle's coworker at the Sexual Health Alliance, I am also a certified sexuality educator and sexologist. I am a graduate of the SHA program. And I teach on a number of topics, including polyamory, kink, and general sexuality topics. And I'm excited this weekend to come from behind the scenes at SHA and present at our Monogamish conference.
Yes, it's going to be a super fun event. So to prepare for our Monogamish conference, we want to do a series about what is consensual non-monogamy, because it may be the first time you've ever heard this term. You don't really know what it is. Maybe you've heard terms like polyamory or polygamy, and you're like, are these the same thing? I don't know. So Jen is here. She's going to do a brief explanation about what is consensual non-monogamy.
Well, consensual non-monogamy, which is often abbreviated and we just say CNM. CNM is a real blanket term for a lot of different relationship types. So basically what consensual non-monogamy means is that you are in agreement with your partner or partners that you have the ability to have more than one romantic and or sexual partner. And it could include something called a don't ask, don't tell type agreement, which is like when you're on say you're on a work trip, if something happens, that's fine, but we don't talk about it, right? So that's what don't ask, don't tell means. Swinging is also included under this umbrella of consensual non-monogamy, and swinging is usually done with either singles or more monogamous seeming couples. They might look like the typical monogamous relationship, but partaking in these swinging behaviors, it usually means that you are allowed to be sexually with other people. But in swinging, typically emotional attachments are off the table.
Yeah, I think when people say swinging, I think of like the old 70s like swinger party atmosphere.
Party or the swapping, because swapping and swinging are kind of used interchangeably, but swapping is more like we're going to trade partners and have sex with each other's partner. And I keep in mind that these terms are very fluid, right, and flexible, because so some swingers out there might be going, hey, I'm allowed to have emotional attachment, but I'm a swinger. And really what consensual non-monogamy is what it looks like is anything that you and your partners agree to consensually and ethically. That's the big key to consensual non-monogamy, is that everybody involved is aware of what's happening.
Right, because some people might say, well, isn't that just a fancy term for being like cheating on your partner or having an affair? Like, isn't that the same thing?
And it's not, because while cheating is a form of non-monogamy, it's not what we would consider consensual or ethical non-monogamy, because in that sort of situation, there's someone in the dark. They don't know what's going on. So I was going to go on to explain that polyamory is another term, and there's been tons of articles lately on poly. Polyamory typically means that you are allowed to have both sexual and romantic relationships with multiple people.
Yes, I know. It's been like there's a TV show, like there's a lot about it now. So what would you say? Okay, so the first time I ever heard of like polyamorous relationships was when the show Sister Wives came out. So what is your take on that? Like, is that a form of like consensual non-monogamy, or is that a little bit like, what's the difference between that and polygamy?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, It would be considered consensual because everybody there is aware of the relationship structure. But technically that's polygamy, which that term means a man with many wives or many female partners. There is another term, polyandry, which is the reverse of that. It's a woman with many male partners. Polyandry, not used so much. Polygamy, we've heard a lot about because some religious sects, believe in that or have believed in that over time. Most notably Mormons, they don't anymore officially from the church, but there are still some people from that background who practice polygamy, and that's what Sister Wives was about.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And so like consensual non-monogamy doesn't always have a religious undertone to it. It's just more of a lifestyle choice, relationship choice, like that.
Yeah, it's a relationship choice. And it's basically people saying that they're bucking against the cultural dictates that, that relationships are one man and one woman, right? So as we become more cognizant of all the different shades of gray, we're recognizing that relationships don't have to look a certain way, to be respectful and mutual and full of trust and love. So people who participate in consensual non-monogamy want something a little different than maybe what their parents and grandparents had.
Yeah, I love it. So if you were going to give tips for somebody maybe entering into this or learning more, discovering this, wanting to try it out, what would some of your tips be?
I think my first tip to anybody who wants to try it out for the first time is make sure that you're good, like that you've worked out some of your stuff. I tend to say own your stuff, except I use the bad word. But basically, it just means becoming really aware of who you are in relationship to other people and how you react, because any of the challenges that you find in relationships are going to become magnified if you're in more than one relationship.
That's such a good point.
And so often what we see is we do see more traditional looking couples deciding that they want to try this together. So, typical man and woman who are married go, I'm curious about this. Do you want to try this? And that's called opening up their relationship. A big pitfall, though, can be if you try to open up your relationship to save it or to improve it, because it'll probably do exactly the opposite. It really does highlight any of the issues that you have going into it. So the best time to experiment with consensual non-monogamy is if you're in a relationship already, when you are in a good place in your relationship and you feel very confident and trusting in your partner and you've worked out all your issues, that would be a better time to give it a try rather than trying to use it as a fix, because that it most often is not a fix.
That is such a good point, because I think sometimes there may be a situation where one partner cheated on another partner and then they're like, well, let's just open up the relationship. So you're saying that's not the best time to do that.
No. And in fact, if you think about that, that's particularly if you're saying, let's open up the relationship and allow me to continue with the person that I was unfaithful with. And we see that a lot too. And as you can imagine, that starts you off with a whole lot of problems to work through, because you're dealing with all of those feelings of being betrayed and your trust being broken. If someone's infidelity leads to a discussion about opening up your relationship, great, but you need to repair the relationship first before you go into that. And honestly, my number one tip for anybody wanting to do this is go to therapy. Go, like whether you're a couple or you're a single, even if you don't think that you have any relationship issues, if you go and talk to a therapist and say, like, this is something I'm really interested in and I want to do, they can help you kind of work through maybe what might be some issues going into this so that you're proactive instead of reactive down the road.
And so that's a really good point too. So talking about finding a therapist, what would you recommend? Like, should somebody just go to like a general mental health therapist or like a sex therapist or somebody who's certified in like CNM? What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. You want to go to someone who is familiar with open relationships and can help you navigate it. We do at Shaw have a consensual non-monogamy program that is headed by Dr. Eli Schaff, who is fantastic and is going to be speaking this weekend. If you can find a therapist who's gone through that program, they are going to know a lot about open relationships, be able to answer your questions along the way and help you navigate it. Because when something is so new, you need guides, you need mentors that are going to help you and understand. ASECT certified therapists are another place to look, and SHA certified. Now, our SHA certified therapists are typically on their way to becoming ASECT certified therapists. And they've had the broad education around CNM that is going to help them to help you.
Yes, I love these. Okay, so far we've got number one tip, make sure your relationship is in a good place, a healthy relationship. Number two, seek the guidance of a very qualified, knowledgeable sex therapist.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, and I can't forget Stellar Pro. That is a guide for people who have these kind of certifications. So that would be a great place to start to look for somebody in your area.
Yes, that's a good recommendation. All right. So do you have any more tips on?
Let me think. Oh, so once you find yourself in a consensual non-monogamous relationship, one thing that I like to keep in mind, because things will come up, they will, right? There's going to be moments where you have feelings that are new to you because you've never been in quite this situation before. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I live by, I am personally poly, I have multiple relationships myself, is that I try to respond rather than react. And what I mean by that is to formulate a response to something, you have to take some time and be thoughtful before you can actually articulate a response. But all too often in situations like this, we react, right? We have a feeling that's uncomfortable. We feel a little jealous or a little envious or a little left out, and we react. And it's those quick off the cuff reactions that can, spark a flame that turns into this big relationship fire instead of think about it a little bit. What is bothering you? Why is it bothering you? Particularly with jealousy, right? Jealousy is an emotion that often contains several other emotions in it, all tangled together. So is it that you're feeling envious of what your partner gets to do with their other partner? Is it that you're feeling envious of the time another partner gets to spend with your partner that you don't feel like you're getting? Is it that he was supposed to take you to this great restaurant and he took his other partner first, right? Are you just feeling a little miffed because you feel like your thoughts weren't, your feelings weren't considered? There can be so many different little feelings wrapped up in jealousy. It's really, really helpful to sit with yourself and sit with the question and the emotion before trying to talk about it, so that you're really talking about the right thing and you're not just jumping all over your partner going, you made me feel bad. Because what can they do with that if you're not able to articulate what you really want?
Yeah, I think that's a really good tip.
Yeah.
So do you mind sharing a little bit about your own personal journey into polyamory?
Oh, sure. I've kind of run the gamut. I've been non-monogamous for most of my adult life. My first partner in my 20s introduced me to swinging, so I started there. And over the last 30 years, it's been a progression. And now I'm in a wonderful place. I have a fantastic long-term partner who is my nesting partner. And nesting partner means that we live together. We've been together for 13 years. I currently have one other partner, and I guess I would say I'm auditioning another.
Auditioning. I love it.
We've been on a few dates and it looks very, very promising, but I don't know that, I'm willing to call it a capital R relationship yet, but I'm having fun. It's good. Things are good. My partner has two other partners besides me. We each have different friend groups. And, even though we're not romantically and sexually involved with all of our friends, we kind of consider them part of our larger polycule, because they are our close friendships and relationships. So, it's really, when I describe this, managing my relationships this way, I feel like it's like creating intentional family.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, this is the family that I'm choosing, that people that I know are here to walk with me through this life. And it's nice to have the ability to choose those people in your life.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Do you think it's difficult for people to find other people who are interested in polyamorous and open relationships?
It can be, certainly, depending on your geographic location.
Mm.
A little, the bigger the population, a little easier it's going to be to find more people like you. I know that I just moved to New England within the last year. And prior to that, I lived in the South. And I did find it a lot more difficult in the South to meet people than I do up here. There are apps that are more specifically geared toward people who practice CNM. Like OkCupid allows you to say that you're non-monogamous, and you can like link to one of your partners on there too, so you can be like, okay, like, I have a partner, but I'm also looking. I believe Field allows you to link as well too, and Field is another one that already has all the keywords in for consensual non-monogamy. So you will find a lot of other people on there who are also poly, or another flavor of non-monogamy. So, and then if you say you don't, you're not into the whole app swipey thing, it's good to look for events in your area. So if you can find local non-monogamous or poly like social groups, typically they'll have like munches and mixers and meetups, so that you can get out and interact with other people who are like you and maybe meet a partner more organically.
Yes, that's some great advice. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about challenges. So this could be like challenges in general, challenges you've experienced, things like maybe what is your family going to say? Like, what are people going to think about you? Things like that. What challenges have you noticed?
I have kind of a funny story about that, because almost 20 years ago, my partner and I were dating the same person. So we were a triad, and brought this person to my dad's for the holidays, and like they were always around. And I know that I told my father at the time that, like, he's our boyfriend, right? I know that I said it. Well, fast forward 20 years, and like a few years ago, and I said, hey, I'm seeing this new guy and I'd really like you to meet him. And my dad was like, oh, is there anything wrong with your marriage? And I'm like, no, my marriage is great. He's got a girlfriend. Like, we're fine. I have this other guy that I've been getting serious about, and I think you guys would really get along. And my dad was like so shocked and taken aback. And I was like, Dad, we had this conversation 20 years ago.
20 years
I'm like, do you remember when my boyfriend? He goes, oh, I thought that was a joke. I was like, no. No, Dad, it was not a joke. He was actually my boyfriend, and my husband's boyfriend. And like, it didn't seem to bother you at the time, but that's because Dad just didn't understand. He thought I was joking.
It was just a joke.
On that note, though, since that reaction, my dad gets it. He says, I couldn't do it myself, but if you're happy, I'm happy. So I am lucky to have parents, and that really that's the attitude they have. As long as I am happy and healthy, and then they're happy for me. I know that that's not the same for everybody, and that you can get pushback from family. You can get pushback from a lot of people, and be discriminated against in work, in housing, because there really aren't any protections for people who live outside the normal, the regular shape that a relationship takes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other challenges. Well, I mean, aside from the external challenges, being in a non-monogamous relationship is it's going to challenge you. I saw a meme recently that said that polyamorous people just have a scheduling kink. Because think about it, when you have multiple people to spend time with and you want to make sure that you're spending quality time with all of them, it takes a lot of scheduling and a lot of being cognizant of other people's availability and trying not to step on toes. One of the things that a lot of poly people do is use Google Calendar, because it's so easy to share.
Yeah.
So that's almost like a relationship milestone, is when you finally get to a point with someone where you're like, hey, can I share my Google Calendar with you? Next level. Like, ooh, I'm going to give you a peek into my life, So scheduling is a challenge. And, with that, like I said, making sure that the people that you do call partners, that you are determined to spend quality time with, that you're making sure you are spending that quality time with them. Yeah. Another challenge when you're first opening up, particularly like if you're coming from a two-person relationship and opening up, it makes sense that people doing this want things to be fair and equal. Like, oh, if you have a date Friday night, then I have a date Friday night. Or you can't go out on Wednesday because I have nothing to do and I haven't met anybody, right? Like people want to try and keep things fair. And unfortunately, it doesn't usually work out that way.
Yeah.
Right. There's going to be nights when you don't have anything to do and your partner's out with one of their other partners. And I've actually honestly gotten to the point where I really treasure those nights, because it means that I have the house to myself. I have nobody commenting on my choice of TV show. And and I can just spend some time by myself. That's another thing, is time by yourself really becomes a premium when you're juggling multiple relationships.
Oh gosh, I can imagine. It's like, like personally, I'm in a two-person relationship, just me and my husband, and I struggle to find that alone time. We've got kids, it's a whole thing, and I think a lot of people feel like that. Yeah. And so just imagine adding more people into the mix. It's like, wow, you probably don't get a lot of time alone.
Yeah, there was an article that came out, I think it was just about a week and a half ago, in the New York Times about a 20-person polycule outside of Boston.
Yeah.
And some of my friends on Facebook were commenting on it and saying, oh, I can barely even keep up with one partner. I don't know how I would navigate this, because it's difficult. A lot of poly people like to say that love is infinite, but time is not.
That's so true.
It is so true. Another term out of the poly community, when somebody feels like they've reached their limit of people that they can be in relationship with, polysaturated.
Oh, polysaturated.
I love that one.
That is a good one. So we've got about 5 minutes left. So I want to talk to you a little bit about this coming weekend. So we mentioned it earlier. We have an event coming up called Monogamish. So can you tell people, anyone who's interested in maybe attending or learning more about consensual non-monogamy, what is this weekend going to be all about?
It's going to be fantastic. So the first day, we have a number of speakers who are going to cover several different topics. We have David Lay kicking it off with a presentation on the 31 flavors of non-monogamy. So I know I gave you guys a brief overview of different forms of non-monogamy, but he's really going to dig in and give you information on just this broad range of non-monogamous behaviors. We also have Kelvin Pace, who's going to talk a little bit more in depth about swinging and what that's like. We have Sandra T. Jones talking about communication, and communication is so good. Communication skills so important when it comes to this. Yours truly, I'm going to talk a little bit about metamor and polycule relationships, and I know I've used the term polycule while we've been on here too. So if you want to know what those two things mean, you can just come to the workshop, or you can Google it, honestly. But
the workshop will be so much more fun.
Right. So I'm going to deep dive into those other relationships that are created by you having multiple relationships. And we have Michelle High of polyamorouswhileasian.com. And it's escaping me what she's going to talk about, but she has another topic too that looked really, really cool. And then all day Sunday, we have Dr. Eli Schaff. And Eli is going to talk to us about polyamorous families. And she's also going to kind of deep dive into the intersection between consensual non-monogamous relationships and kink.
Awesome. I mean, it's going to be an amazing weekend, like so much good information. And for anybody who's never been to one of our Sexual Health Alliance events, it is not like a regular lecture. So there's Q&A time, there's breakout rooms, like the topics are just so interesting and engaging. It's really an interactive experience.
Very interactive. And like one of the things that I appreciate so much about our conferences is how willing our presenters are to answer questions and interact with the audience. So it's not like one of these webinars where they just talk at you. They will take your specific questions and talk right to you. Not to mention our students are great. Like while there's a presentation going on, the chat is usually going crazy with people adding resources and all sorts of information to follow up on. Some of the resource lists that come out of our conferences are just absolutely fantastic and provide so much more information, unexpected information from our conferences.
Right. And there's such a wide spectrum of people who attend the conferences. Like we have students and alumni, we have people who are experts, we have people who are attending when this is their first time ever hearing about consensual non-monogamy. Yep. So we've got people who are brand new to expert level. It's like a huge variety, which makes it super fun and interesting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love our community. Like that's one of my favorite parts about this program altogether is the people, and conferences are the time when you can really get together and talk about all of the stuff that we're learning.
Yes. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you want to register for this weekend, you can go to our website, sexualhealthalliance.com, go to the events tab, and you'll see the event there. I will also try to link it in the comments or somewhere within this live stream, so it's easy to access. All right. We're just about to wrap up. Any final thoughts before we go, Jen?
Non-monogamy is not for the timid.
Not for the timid.
Just expect that you're going to do a lot of work. I mean, relationships are work as it is. And the more complexity you add, the more you're going to work. But, so I was mentioning my friend who made the post about not understanding how you could manage more than one partner. I replied back, I said, yeah, it's challenging. And there are times when in frustration, I go, it would be so much easier to be monogamous. And it's true, it would be easier. but the benefits that I get from having more love and more support in my life are, are worth the hard times. So yeah.
I love that.
Not a piece of advice. That's just a little reflection.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much, Jen, for your expertise and your time. This was really fun. And yeah, we'll have to do another one soon.
Excellent. Hope to see people this weekend.
Yes, hopefully we'll see some of you this weekend. It's going to be really fun. Jen will be there. I will be there as an admin on the conference, so I'll be just in the background. So I hope to see some of you there. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.